Welcome, everybody. My name is Marvel Bishop, and you're now listening to and watching the Lab Podcast Series. Appreciate everybody for listening, the YouTube viewership, the SoundCloud viewership, who else? Instagram, everybody who is listening, everybody who's not listening. It is what it is. It's really late, but I do appreciate everybody for coming through today. Hey. I think that 2 of the 3 people that are here hate me right now, but it's all good. It is all good. Well, I'm crazy, so it is what it is. So before we start, as always, I would like to go around the room and introduce everybody. Please tell me your name, first name, last name. What do you do? Why are you on this earth? And let's get started. To my, you know what? We're gonna go here.
You just gonna do that.
Reverse clockwise.
Yes.
Great evening, kings and queen. My name is Chinelo Opalobi. I am a provisionally licensed mental health therapist, and I'm on this earth because I feel like I have a purpose to pour into others, like others have poured into me. And I'm all about positive energy and positive vibes, and yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Marvel.
I appreciate you, thankfully. We actually had somebody else that was supposed to come here, but they bailed because they had like a little bit of family emergency. So I called my girl Chi, came through, and appreciate it, even though she rolled her eyes like at least 10 times before she came through here.
But I'm here.
Yeah, but she's here. Really appreciate you. Much love. Mr. Hodge.
Yes, sir. Yes,
sir. What up?
Number one, thank you for the invite.
I appreciate you, man.
My name is Rob Hodges, 14-year vet with Miami-Dade Fire Rescue, 2.5 years as a realtor, and I'm loving every minute of it. I'm so grateful for health, my daughter, family, friends. Life is good. Good vibes.
Yes, sir. Sin cycle.
Okay. Hi, guys. My name is Cindy. I am a 14-year vet in education. I love what I do. I love my kids. I have 2 kids of my own, married. I like to think I live a pretty dope life, I think, because I get to be me at all times. So that's my purpose. My purpose is just live and, build a legacy for my kids. That's it.
And you have a podcast.
And I do have a podcast.
Talk your shit, queen.
Oh, my God. So one of my best friends and I just started a podcast called So Fit the Ratchet Podcast.
Yo, listen, I laughed too, but when I first heard that shit and I internalized it, that shit's amazing.
The So Fit represents us taking like a health and wellness journey. Her and I combined lost over like 150 pounds. And we just like to think that we're highly educated, sophisticated, but ratchet.
A little ratchet. Everybody got a little ratchet.
Yeah. So we're trying to combine the 2 into one, like the best of both worlds. And that's it. So we just talk about a whole lot of shit.
Who's your target audience?
I think our target audience is like pretty broad in terms of my status as a mom and wife and her status as having no kids and being single. So I think we target the female audience, and the ages could range, I feel like it could range between like 25 to 45. I think we have a pretty large range.
Excuse me, you didn't pay for the ad sponsorship yet for the Lab Podcast Series, so I don't know if we can actually do this, ma'am. So
check it out. So Fit the Ratchet Podcast.
So, all right, let's get right into the shits, man. T.I. So recently, pretty much I brought you guys here because I wanted your opinions on this certain topic. And we're going to dive into a couple other things too, because I really feel like this topic's not really surface, but it definitely has a lot of layers to it. So recently there was a lot of backlash with T.I. because he apparently has, he does like virginity checks with his daughter every single year. He goes to the gyno, and a lot of people were pretty much like very outraged about it. And I feel like, there's something we could definitely talk about because there's a lot of layers pretty much to it. So number one, let's start off right away. Number one, Cindy, you are a married woman and you have 2 beautiful children, a younger daughter and an older son, correct?
Yes.
How old is your daughter?
She's 6. She'll be 7 in December.
Okay, cool. And then you and I pretty much, we're not together. No. Well, first of all, we're not together. But no, we are.
So funny. Oh my gosh.
That was kind of weird.
Disclaimer.
No, but we're both people who do not have kids. So I want to start with you, actually. Like, how do you, as a black woman who is married, who has a kid, who has a younger daughter, how do you feel about these actions that pretty much he has taken to, to pretty much...
Well, scientifically, checking someone's hymen does not determine if they're still a virgin. Let's just put that out there.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter if her hymen is broken or not.
Because you can lose it by like what?
You can lose it by
horseback riding.
And those are the comments that he made. He was like, oh, my daughter doesn't do this. She's not in sports, X, Y, and Z. So in other words, if her hymen is broken, then that means she's engaging in sexual activity.
Yeah, okay.
But I just wouldn't do that to my child. I wouldn't do that to my daughter. Despite me being a mother, I come from, I have a Haitian background. My parents are of Haitian descent. So traditionally, you would expect them to be very strict when it comes to discussing, the birds and the bees, but I was never raised that way. My mom was always had a really open dialogue with me. Mm-hmm. So I would love to have that with my daughter. I don't want to take my daughter to the doctor, and that's when I find out she's having sex. I would prefer her tell me. So, yeah, I don't agree with his actions at all. At all.
Okay.
I don't care if he was doing it when she was 12 or 18. There's a different way to go about having that discussion and getting kids to tell the truth. Kids are always going to lie, though. Kids are always going to lie to a certain extent, but if you create like a safe space for them, eventually, they will tell you.
Hodge?
So.
Talk about it, man.
I'll first start out by saying there's no right or wrong, okay? I personally do not have a problem with what he chose to do with his daughter because, like I was explaining earlier, in the grand scheme of things, what he's doing is minor. When you look at us as a global situation, I mean, you have countries that believe in prearranged marriage. You have countries that, for a cow and some money, you could have their 13-year-old daughter. Mm-hmm. That actually happens. So when you look at it broadly, I feel like it's a drop in the bucket. Now, locally, meaning here in the U.S., I could understand how people can have a problem with that because I feel like people here are really, really sensitive. Extremely sensitive. Is it
sensitive or is it something that kind of puts us 10 steps back instead of 5 steps forward?
Like I said, I feel like your answer was based on a mom's perspective, and I respect that.
Gotcha.
I understand that because you actually do have a child. So, your response is really valid to me. As a father, I don't see anything wrong with that. I think that between the ages of, when a child begins to explore their sexual nature versus 18, when you become an adult, I feel like if he decides to use this as something to put like a barrier on her, in his mind, he may be trying to protect her, possibly from a guy like who he used to be. He may be afraid because Well,
I think used to be. Yeah, I mean, I don't think. Okay, here we go.
I don't think. I don't think he's the same T.I. from 10 years
still.
ago. If he is, then he's doing something.
But you know what's
wrong,
funny? Because his actions, what he's doing right now, honestly, kind of like I'm actually very surprised that he does that now because I feel like the T.I. of old would have done that versus now. Like,
what do you mean?
Like, I don't know. It's just, I mean, I don't agree with it, honestly. Like, I really don't. And honestly, I want to keep my, sentiments before you actually speak, honestly, because because it's your turn. But actually, you know what? I'm going to shut up. Are you done?
Overall, I don't have a problem with what he's doing because I'm trying to put myself in his shoes, and honestly, I don't feel like he's doing anything that's crossing the line. I feel like if he did that and stopped it at the age of 18, and from 18 on, he was like, listen, I did my part to try to protect you the way I thought a father would protect their daughter. Now you're on your own. You could go out there and sleep with every guy you meet, but from the age of, whenever he started doing that to the age of 18, I feel like I did my part to try to prevent something from happening.
Okay.
That's my stance.
Chi, what are your thoughts?
So from hearing Cindy and Rob's, I mean, I feel like my perspective kind of changed. Going into it, I was going to say, if you have to go through those great lengths to find out something that you could find out in a conversation, I think you need to focus more on building a relationship with your child to where you feel that we can have conversations about certain things that may not be comfortable for you to disclose to your father or your mother. As far as the option that he chose to find out certain things, I don't necessarily agree with. Just from how I was raised, the fear was put in me to have sex. I was scared to have sex because, I was told you may get this and this may happen and you will get pregnant. It's like, okay, I knew for a fact I didn't want to disappoint my parents. So it wasn't more so like, of course, if you're so sheltered, you're like, okay, I'm not going to do certain things. But then you're like, okay, I have this curious mindset of, oh, I wonder how this will go if I tried it. I don't 100% agree, but I do understand it. And I feel that he should have gone a different route as far as understanding who your child is. And I think giving himself much credit as a parent, like, I did this or I instilled these type of values or these morals in my child for her to feel like, okay, yes, just like Rob said, you're going to go out and you're going to try things. You want to do whatever you want, But at the same time, I'm thinking, okay, how would my parents feel with the outcome, or if something else happens that was not planned? That's how I was raised. So that fear, and then it's like 50-50, 50% fear and 50% respect when it comes to how my parents would look at me if certain things happen versus how I was raised and what I was taught not to do and what to do.
But I feel like it's the same thing.
What?
Like what your parents did is equivalent to what T.I. is doing. It's just a different approach.
But my parents gave me that privacy. Like even at 18, when my mom came with me on my first pap smear, she was in a waiting room. She could have came back with me, but I went there by myself. So it's like you're talking about a father who did that to a child at early preteens or teenager, and then up until right before you become an adult. That's an invasion of privacy, and that's the part where I don't agree with, as far as the great lengths he has to go to figure out if my child is sexually active or if she's a virgin.
In my opinion, it kind of displayed a relationship that didn't have any substance. Because if I'm a 16-year-old and I know every year my dad is going to take me to the clinic to figure out if I'm a virgin or not, I may want to avoid that entire process by just always keeping it 100 with him. And if I'm constantly telling him about, I would say 90% of what's going on in my life, as a parent, I don't need to go in there and ask the doctor what's the status of her hymen, because we have this relationship where I don't have to ask the doctor what's going on, because I am confident that she will tell me.
I definitely respect your answer.
Yeah.
At the same time, I think there's a slight bias because you are speaking on a man from a mother's perspective.
Gotcha.
And back to what I was about to say with you, what your parents did to you versus what T.I. is doing to his daughter, I feel like it's the same thing. It's just a different approach. Although your parents didn't invade your privacy, they scared the shit out of you based on what they told you.
Parenting with fear.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I do.
Yeah.
But again, that's the reason why, it wasn't, okay, I'm going to do what my friends did. And, at the age that they lost their virginity, mine was much later, because I guess in a sense, it kind of instilled in me mindfulness. Like, okay,
I'm going to ask you a question.
Go ahead.
And I hope you don't feel uncomfortable. At what age did you lose your virginity?
I was 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was 15.
I was 19.
15.
But my parents never instilled fear in me. I almost didn't feel the need to rush into any sexual activity because I was like, what's the big deal? Like, my mom talks to me about it so much that I wasn't even like curious for a long time. So I just find that a lot of kids because I'm an educator, a lot of kids that engage at an earlier age, I'm not speaking for everyone, they do because they've been raised with fear. So they come to school and they do certain things. Like, I've caught kids having sex in the bathroom stalls before. I mean, you name it, it's there. And then they go home and it's a totally different ball game. And when you have those parent conferences, you can tell the parents raised them with like this, if you do this, I'm gonna, So they just put on a different face when their parents are around.
I mean, at the end of the day, there's no perfect playbook to be the perfect parent. Yeah. So that's why when Rob made the statement as far as what I experienced with my parents and what he's doing, it may be a different 1, 2, 3 step, but under the umbrella of it's still parenting with fear, or slightly invasion of privacy, or making it seem that, this is how you're supposed to do it. And if you don't, this is the outcome, which is fear, right? So I definitely do understand that it is still under the umbrella of parenting. It's just the specificities of how he wants to parent his child, because he doesn't want this outcome. And even him just being who he is and what we know about his life and his colorful background, there's a lot of men that's like, I don't want you to date, or I don't want you to marry the guy that I am, or I don't want you to experience what your mother experienced.
I got you.
That's admirable. Like, I understand that, because you're not made of stone, so you know how many females you've hurt, and you're like, okay, this is my daughter. I don't want her to experience the same type of hurt that I caused
that I'm
on
still
her.
causing.
Do you think that T.I.'s daughter?
Can we stop talking as if like T.I. like?
Yeah, we're not trying to talk like he
It's not really
He's
so much
still a
past tense.
problem.
It's more with me. I don't have a conversation with T.I. every day. So what I read or what other people
with his lifestyle.
But what celebrity is, though, they're only going to give you so much. No one is going to give you 100%. Just like any human being that walks the face of this earth, no one's going to give you 100%. Even the person that you sleep with is not going to give you 100%. So we can expect this from T.I., or we can hear, oh, people say this, or this was in the tabloids, but do we really know T.I. and what Tiny accepts and what she doesn't accept? No, but when shit hits the fan, then you make a comment on it, because now it's it's for public attention. Now it's a conversation.
So you feel like we're giving T.I. way too much damn credit?
Yeah, he doesn't represent
no, he doesn't
everyone.
represent. He doesn't represent.
They're
the masses.
very unique in how they live. Like, it's very weird to me. Like, I respect it, but I don't respect it.
Okay.
Like, people have said for many years that Will and Jada have an open marriage. There's
To
no
this day,
proof.
I still think.
But there's no proof of
proof.
it. And I have so much more respect for them, because they have never confirmed it, nor have they put themselves in a position to be questioned. T.I. and Tiny, on the other hand, they have put themselves in a lot of different situations, but yet they don't want to be questioned. It's like...
They talk about it, they bring it out of the light.
But they never really say it. And I'm like, I don't really care, but it's like... Stop doing things to make people make it a conversation like we're talking about it right now. No one talks about Will and Jada. No one.
So, quick question. When it comes to parenting, right? And I'm asking y'all
And I think that's why they don't confirm it, because they are parents, which is why I give them like a pass, because they do have kids. Like, you don't want to go around saying, yeah, this is our lifestyle, and you have like a 10-year-old.
Do you think that T.I.'s daughter has a problem, and actually has a problem basically talking to him about problems?
Yes.
And do you think that this is maybe like a byproduct of this?
I mean,
because here's the thing, like, I feel like as a Black community, like, we don't really talk about problems and pretty much topics as it is.
Right.
And this is like literally putting fuel to the fire right now. So it's like, that's my question to y'all.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, communication is a huge problem. And all races, you know,
agree.
and I feel like people say communication is key. And I feel like people don't talk enough, especially behind social media. And now you have emojis and, you know, liking messages and not having to respond. It's like that now takes away from having old school conversations or communication with people, because you now can live behind a keyboard, or you now have this in place of what you really want to say.
You know what really scared me? You know what really scared me? Honestly, this whole entire notion is pretty much happening when everybody was like commenting, was saying like, hey, like this is so like disgusting or whatever and invasive.
She
like,
liked it.
That's all she was doing though.
She liked it.
But that, don't y'all see, like that's kind of like a little bit like,
she co-signing how.
no, I understand that, but at the same time, like she's co-signing it, but she's not really expressing herself on how she feels.
Who, the daughter?
Yes.
daughter, yeah.
The daughter is on Twitter basically saying,
But this
liking
is
all of
also a
these
family
mentions,
that
all of
has
these
a reality
mentions,
show.
all of these mentions basically saying, hey, this is disgusting, this is invasive, we stand for you, this and that, and all she's doing is pretty much liking it. Like, I see that as a cry for help, honestly, to tell you the
It's
truth.
passive. Like you're not saying exactly how you feel, but
But as black people, pretty
Yeah.
much, when it comes to our
Dropping
problems, we are always passive.
yeah.
That's what I'm trying to get at here.
Mr. Rob, you have something to say?
Yeah,
Yes, you
please.
do.
I know you got
Please.
something. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to speak as a father with a daughter.
Okay.
Okay, now, disclaimer, I'm a space cadet halfway. So a lot of the things that I say, they don't sit well with the general public. I feel like the fact that T.I.'s daughter is now 18, okay, what I realized from my daughter is from the age where she can understand my presence, which was probably around 2.5 to 3 years old, she has a different type of fear of me versus when she's with her mom. Example, she'll have a temper tantrum with her mom. She wouldn't even think about having that with me. So if she adopts this belief, and also too, like men have a really strong, for their daughter, they have a really strong presence because daughters look up to dads like, oh my God, he's a fucking superhero, right? So you got to think about it like this. If a child, a daughter, adapts that belief from the age of 2, right? And 15, we're talking about 13 years that she has adapted to this thought of her dad. So by the time she's 18, although she may feel different at this age, she's still conditioned.
Okay.
She's still conditioned from her childhood to not let her father down.
Of course.
So
yeah.
she may very well be liking these comments, and that's her way of expressing it, but subconsciously she's afraid to say it herself.
Mm-hmm.
So
I have a question.
I agree.
How old is your daughter?
6.
Okay. When she feels like there's a problem, whatever, she has like a issue, or like whenever she pretty much needs to talk, is she more comfortable talking to you, or she's more comfortable talking to your mother, to your?
I don't know, because I have split custody with mine.
Okay.
So when I'm with my daughter, I only see her.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see what's
How she
happening when
interacts.
she's
Okay.
with her mom. Now I hear different
Well,
stories.
With you, like, is she able to have express any type of sentiments, or whatever? Because I think that with T.I.'s daughter, I don't think she doesn't even have that with him, and that's my problem that I have. That the simple fact that us as black men, pretty much, we need to pretty much obviously be that strength, that that statue. But at the same time, if our daughters and anybody else, and our daughters need to come to us, they need to be pretty much to be able to come to us and talk to us.
The thing is this, it's hard for a child to, it's hard for a female child to know the difference. Like as a father, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't be a disciplinarian at the same way I am as a nurturer.
Okay.
So when I'm with my daughter, in her perspective, I feel like she looks at me as more of a disciplinarian because I am a man.
Okay.
Now, the way I nurture her, she may not be able to relate to that because, number one, she's a young female. So she may not even receive my nurturing nature as nurturing like she would from her mom.
Gotcha.
'Cause it's
I
different.
agree.
Because
It
it's
is.
different.
Right.
So in a way, I could be as nurturing as a male could possibly be to a daughter, but it still is not as receptive to my daughter as
Right.
it is coming from her mom.
Okay.
I agree.
I agree.
Yeah, it
too.
sounds like you're very like old school when it comes to it.
That's how I feel.
I mean, I'm
No, which is fine by me. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm a little bit of a
because I'm
hybrid,
really
honestly.
back to my
relationship
yeah,
with
my
that's
dad.
how it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Even today, like even though I feel like I'm split because I'm a middle child, so I feel like I kind of have both mom
just have
and
a problem
dad
with my
on my
dad.
side. But growing up, it definitely
I
was
do.
like that. You know, even though, I mean, just he said it very well. You know, even though father was definitely a nurturer, was at every soccer game, volleyball game, any type of sport, you name it. But I just had this comfort with my mom that I just felt
course.
I can tell her anything and may not get a backlash or something, you know, if I tell my dad the same thing. Yeah. I mean, now it's a little different because I'm an adult, but it's still that, oh, I can go to mom and tell her whatever, you know. I'm like, oh, can I tell dad this?
But okay, but here's the thing: are we in a day and age right now where men, especially black men, need to be more, I guess,
Sensitive?
nurturing and more sensitive to?
I think so.
You say,
I'm asking him. I'm asking you, like, because
No,
I see your face.
We're not
That's
in
why.
that.
Like,
We are not.
I think
Like,
we need to
do you
be,
think-
but
Yeah.
you'll be the best
do you
We're
think you can
not.
ever be that nurturer to your daughter? Because you said that you would rather be a disciplinarian than other than being a nurturer.
Well, I said I'm naturally.
You're naturally
A
okay. And since you
disciplinarian.
guys are pretty much separated, do you feel like you have a need, or maybe you see? Okay, I'm kind of talking out of ignorance right here because I don't really know your situation. But like,
I mean, I could tell you. I mean, for the most part.
yeah, please.
In a nutshell, I was married for 4.5 years.
Okay.
Okay. We separated for 3 years before we got a divorce. So we were co-parenting. I think our second year, 2.5 years within our marriage is when we had our daughter. So before we separated, we were both in the household together for about 2 years.
Okay. Okay. So, do you feel like you, especially being a single parent, do you feel like you need to have maybe both sides of the coin, or do you feel like you just need to be pretty much a disciplinarian and then you'll have your ex-wife basically handle the nurturing side?
I feel like in my position, I have two options. Okay. Fortunately, we live in a generation, and I'm speaking between the age of like 25 and 35,
Okay.
like that circle. Okay. Option number one, which would probably be the preferred option, is to have two parents in the household because you get the yin and the yang. Okay. Unfortunately, I'm not able to be in that situation, so I have to opt out for option number two. Now, option number two for a person in my position would be I have to first recognize that who was my teacher? Okay, my teacher was my dad. His teacher was his dad. Okay, now I have to go back to my childhood and figure out, okay, was the actions and the things that my dad displayed, is that something that I want to display to my daughter? Okay, now we're going to continue to repeat the cycle of our parents until we stop and say, listen, this shit ain't real right here. Like this, you know, I don't want to do the same things my parent did. So
Got you.
with me, I had to stop because I saw a lot of the actions that my dad did coming out in me, and I didn't want that. So because I wasn't able to do option number one, option number two for me would be to stop, and I had to purposely seek out information. And I feel like a lot of us as black men, we don't do that because it's not cool. We don't read books. We don't go to counseling. Let me tell you,
Yeah.
I was married for 4.5 years, and one of the best things that ever happened to me, although it did not help my marriage, was marriage counseling. I grew up in a household where my parents divorced after 26 years of marriage, and they never had marriage counseling. So naturally, I'm going to feel like marriage counseling is not something that I want to do if I continue on the same cycle that my dad did. But once you become aware of life, You have to say, listen, I need to stop that generational curse right now. I need to do something different from my dad. If not, I'm going to, by default, have the same results that he did.
Gotcha.
What's the definitely affect, the kids that you have basically is going to be a trickle-down effect. And it's
Absolutely.
Be a domino effect. It's going to keep on
So
going
if I did
and
not
going and going.
purposely go out and get books, if I did not purposely make myself conscious of, okay, I need to treat my daughter a certain way. If I did not do that consciously, then subconsciously, I would just continue to do the same actions that my dad did.
So, Chi.
So do you think T.I.'s actions is him trying to correct things from the past, like his past, like how you just said?
What's funny? Actually, somebody told me that the reason why he's acting like this is because he's trying to pretty much correct, or he's trying to basically prevent the karma that...
That's what I'm thinking.
Because I don't think he grew up with his father.
No.
Okay.
But I think he wants his daughter to have that relationship or protection that he knows young girls in general don't have when they don't have a father.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Chi?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's okay to have mistakes as a parent.
Yeah.
And just like you said, from seeking information, be able to say, okay, maybe this wasn't the best route to go in with whomever, son or daughter. I don't know if he's going to say that or if it needs to be said. I'm just all about effectiveness. And I feel just because I didn't do my research on, what's her name, Deja, how she responded to it. But just from what you all are telling me that she liked certain comments, it's like there's still an issue with the route that he went. And I feel like she still has an issue with it and is still afraid to say what the issue is because of the relationship that she has with her father, T.I.
So you know how they say that when everything happens, it's always a reaction to everything. Not really trying to absolve, I should say, what T.I. did or whatever. But I just think that there was like a communication barrier that was broken between the two of them.
I'm trying to think of what would make him make that comment on a podcast show.
But what would make him pretty much do that? He has
a control. To me, he's a little controlling. And that's just based on me being a reality TV show junkie and watching
Same here. No,
the family.
I agree.
After watching them for so many years, you can tell he runs a tight ship with his wife and his children. So I wasn't surprised by his actions. I'm just trying to figure out what would make him make those comments.
What was the comment?
Comment about him taking his daughter
okay.
to the gynecologist. What would make him feel comfortable to now make it public, knowing that social media is going to attack him,
come down on his ass,
and come down on his daughter.
I think that part T.I. doesn't really care as far as social media and the comments and the backlash.
But he's very protective of his family.
He
so
is.
in a sense, it's like you kind of threw her out.
It's kind of like a concert. It's like a.
But that's why it's his podcast. I'm able to discuss whatever I want to discuss. And
no, he was a guest.
Oh, he was a guest.
He was a guest on the podcast, basically.
Podcast.
And then he brought it up, and then he was pretty much talking about it. He was talking about what he used to do, what he did, and he doesn't even do that now. Honestly,
no, I don't. No, he doesn't
question:
do it
Do you
now.
think that the age of 18 is considered an adult?
Yes.
Really?
Is it considered adult? No,
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Either.
I don't think
legally.
Legally, but who cares about legally though?
No.
You have to care about it legally.
Why?
Because despite you viewing your child as still being a kid, when they walk out of your door, they're an adult. And they have to follow rules like an adult. So if you're still nurturing them like they're a kid, and then they walk out of your house and they're still acting like a kid, not understanding the fact that the government views them as an adult, you have an issue.
I mean, there's different factors. So what do you mean, as far as an adult? Because then you're like, okay, are you grown? Because anybody could pay bills.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
I'm looking at it as I have a young black son who's 13 right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I need him to know that when he turns 18, the world sees you totally different. That's what I mean by they're an adult.
Okay,
now.
I'm not talking about the world. I'm talking about you. I'm talking about the household.
So no,
He's not my baby, but he ain't my baby.
No,
If that makes sense.
No.
He's my baby, but
Yeah.
he's not my baby.
Okay.
Because in the Haitian household, what
Do
I've
you have that
noticed,
same energy when it comes to your daughter when she
and
becomes
that's
18?
what I'm about to bring up. I can recall being treated like an adult at 18. No, 16. When you're in a Haitian household, you're doing everything that a wife and a mother would do: cook, clean, do this, do that. The son is getting like
he's
this
a
type
king.
of treat. He's a king, and it's like
Yep.
he's 21, and you're still waking him up, and you're I'm not going to raise my son that way. So I'm going to raise my son the same way I would raise my daughter. I'm not going to have my daughter, doing things that I was doing at 16. But there's going to come a time when everyone has to like man up and get out of my house.
Everybody.
Everyone.
Everybody. Man, like daughter
Everyone.
and son.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm trying not to like parent based on gender, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And
My
age,
husband
too,
does it,
and
but I don't like it.
this is why I feel like age is not a factor when it says you're an adult. Because at 18, yeah, I was in college, but I was still getting my allowance at 18. Like I stated, in the conversation before we started the podcast, I just moved out of my parents' house January of this year, and I'm 27. I have siblings who are older than me, and I am viewed as an adult now because everything is now on me, and they're still being taken care of by mom and dad.
Okay.
So as far as 18, no, because you're just kind of getting your feet wet at 18. I think there's different factors that play into you being identified as an adult at 18. Because I know a lot of my friends who are like, okay, you're 18 from their parents. Okay, you gotta go.
It's kind of a
You're out
cultural
the house.
standpoint too, because I feel like with black families, you'll kind of have more of a, I guess, leniency.
I feel like African Americans kick their kids out at 18.
I think
Yeah.
no. I think whites
I
do.
do.
No. I think white people
I
do.
do.
I don't think. Well, okay. Okay.
See, born and raised in Miami,
no,
I
no.
feel
My white
like
friends.
they
No.
were
My
like,
white friends.
bye, you gotta
you
go.
have white friends?
I went to school. I was the only black girl in high school.
Okay, here's the thing. I mean, from a Caribbean
Yeah, no.
standpoint, I
You
mean,
can stay home forever.
Yeah.
yes, and I'm Caribbean, so it's like that's pretty much how it is. But like I feel with whites, it's like literally when you turn 18, like the boot is in your ass.
Really?
They
Yes,
want
of
to
course.
leave at 18, but you can
Hans,
come
what do you
back
think?
and
I need to hear from you, man.
Bro,
Like
the thing is
Rob, you
this,
look
man.
You have
quiet.
kids that are 40 years old still staying
that's
home
what I'm saying.
in the Caribbean household.
And even
You're
if,
40.
like, listen, and I think that there's I have no issue with that when you just said you coming out of like what I'm saying, like in your household.
Yeah, I left my house at 25.
Yeah, there's yeah, but go ahead.
Like I said, man, I really feel like the way that I think is so outside the box. It's different. So in my
Is it different or is it traditional?
the way I think,
Yes.
I think it's different. I think it's
not really
a
outside
little
the
bit different.
box.
Like for an example, like with the topic that we're talking about now, I don't feel like at 18 you're an adult. I feel like the way that this European society has set things up, that's what they push on us. That's what we were born into. If it were me, I would say that what is the average age that a kid begins to understand responsibility? And in my opinion, I would feel like that age is between the 14 and 16 is when a kid starts to understand bills and, you have to do this, that, and the other. So honestly, I feel like from the age of, from the time that you're born until the time that you're 14, you are a child, right? So a lot of people think, well, you're 18, you got to go. But that's not really fair because you didn't start thinking like an adult until you were 14. So honestly, when you're 18, if you started thinking as an adult when you were 14, technically you're 4 years old as an adult.
I get it now.
You know what I'm saying? And certain things shouldn't be pressured on you, but we live in such a society where it's like
Everything's just so rushed. To
everything's
us,
so
bro.
rushed. Like, oh my God, if you don't have kids and you're a female by 30,
Something's
what's wrong with you?
That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm
And it's
32,
like,
ain't got no damn kids. Like, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So
it's like, but what are we
dude,
talking about here?
Huh?
And
No,
then
but
the
listen,
female
no,
thirties.
wait,
standards-
time out. Wait, hold on now.
We only
What?
have those
But-
timetables to women, though.
No,
I just want to make that
but
clear.
here's the thing, though. It is kind of looked at as kind of not weird, but I guess kind of like a unicorn when you are a black man being 32 and having no kids.
You're rare. You're
Yes.
yes.
Never
'cause
heard
you're,
of that before.
You're
Never.
a statistic. That's what it is. Because typically, men at your age, you got 4 or 5 different baby mothers.
Really?
You know? Yes.
Yes. No. What?
Yes.
Come on, Cindy. Come on, dog.
No.
Like no. Yes. Yes. I'm saying. Am I lying? Am I lying?
I wouldn't say
How
4. I
highlighted-
wouldn't say 4 or 5, but
Okay, I'm sorry.
typically,
well, I'm from Louisiana, so that's normal. 4 or 5.
What I'm saying though is that, and we're going on a tangent, but fuck it, whatever. But like, it is pretty much asinine of a black man being my age.
you're what, 30?
I'm 32
Okay.
and not having no kids whatsoever. Like, I'm considered a unicorn.
Yeah, you're rare.
A unicorn,
Yes.
but in a good way.
Oh no, in a great way.
yeah.
Oh, come on, we're
But
talking
it's
about me,
funny to
baby.
You take
Like,
that
you know what I'm saying?
same 32-year-old female. She's not a unicorn. She's
Okay, yeah,
damaged
all right,
goods.
now we're about to get into
Yeah.
the whole
But
other.
it's old.
No, you're right.
But
You're
it's
right.
true.
You're right.
So when you,
All
when you,
right,
when you
let's-
put it in that aspect, I get it now.
Yes, from a black man's
It's like,
perspective,
oh, girl, he
whatever.
ain't got no
yes.
kids.
Yeah.
It's like,
no, listen.
girl, she ain't
To
got no
end this,
kids.
to end this, you're
Right.
right.
Totally
But that's a
right.
whole other conversation.
Double
but the premise to end
standard.
this is, which it is. I feel you. It's like when you're 32, you're a black man. It's like, oh my God, you're a unicorn. When you're 32 and you're a black woman, it's like something's fucking wrong with you.
Yeah.
I get it. I got you, but we don't have time for that. That's a whole other topic right
That
there.
is.
All right, so
But in a sense, it does still goes back to T.I.'s actions.
Okay,
Because
go ahead.
I just feel like this year alone, there's been a lot of attack against women. And that's why people were so upset with T.I.'s actions, because it's like, damn, I thought we've made so much progress in terms of how we treat women. And the truth is we haven't. Take a look at, I'm going back to Aisha Curry's comments about, I forgot what it was. It was something dealing with
How men,
how she wonders how men feel about her. And
she was
people
wilding, but
attacked-
okay.
No, she wasn't.
She was
People
wilding. She was
attacked
wilding.
her
No,
for
she was
that.
wilding. She was wilding, but we're not going to get into that.
But what I'm saying is anything.
We can talk about this after the podcast.
I'm
I got
like-
all damn night.
Okay, the Aisha comments, everyone attacked her for that. Everyone's upset about Hot Girl Summer. It just seems like anything dealing with a
listen,
chick.
Cindy, so we talked about this. I think with the whole
It's
Hot
like,
Girl Summer,
okay.
that's more of a joke rather than actually
No, I don't
like
think
being
it's a joke.
very-
No.
I don't think it's a
That's
joke.
people's real lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like hot girl summer, like
And
know,
people were really
about the
upset
cash.
about it. That's not a joke.
Therapist over here.
No
flexing
feelings.
Over here. All right,
I'm just saying.
Okay, continue. My bad.
I just think it ties back to like we still have a lot of work to do in terms of like gender issues and how we view men versus women. And we're becoming a society that's very fluid, meaning that the lines are becoming very blurred. And I don't think this is how I've always viewed my career. What everyone has adapted to, I've adapted to 5 years. I feel
Okay.
like I'm always ahead of the game because it always starts in the classroom, if that makes sense. So like, I don't really see gender the way I used to. I just don't think society sees it that way yet.
Got you.
It's like when I look at society, I'm like, everyone's behind because no one's really looking at, what a man can do versus what a female can do in the classroom, but society is still doing it.
I got
Which
you.
is why it's so weird to me that he would do something like that with his daughter.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So to we don't really
Hold on, and I just want to make one more comment. If I'm going to check and be so concerned about my daughter's virginity, then I need to have that same energy with my son.
No, of course. No, I agree with that. No, absolutely.
But people
Agreed.
don't look at it that way. They don't.
All right, so we got.
Were
We
you
really
gonna
don't have
wrap
to.
it up?
I want to wrap it up, but I'm gonna have say what you gotta say. If you got one more point, and then we're gonna wrap it up. But go right ahead.
Okay, so my point is this. A lot of people are looking at the actions of T.I. and they're focusing on the wrong thing, okay? What I mean by that is if T.I. didn't grow up with his dad, okay, and he's now a parent, where is he supposed to get the blueprint from? So that's just like me coming to you and saying, hey, listen, you're a teacher, right? But I'm going to give you plans to build a condo. You figure it out and you do it how you think is fit. So you're like, okay, this is my responsibility now. I'm going to build a condo like this, that, and the other. And now you have the world pointing their finger like, well, why is she building the condo like that? Like, what's, you know what I'm saying? What's wrong with her? But in your mind, you like, listen, motherfucker, I didn't have nobody to follow. I'm doing this based off of
I'm doing this
my
off the dome,
experience,
yeah.
like
Right.
off the dome. This is like a freestyle for me. So,
Gotcha.
like, excuse me, world, if I don't get this shit right, but you're not in my position. You grew up with your parents, so obviously your experience and your perception is going to be different than mine.
But just because they grew up with their parents doesn't mean it's right anyway. Like
It doesn't
like
mean
you
that
said,
it's
that's
right,
one of the
right.
first things you said
But
in
there's
the,
no
in the
right
beginning
or
of this
wrong.
podcast. There's no right and
Right.
wrong.
There's no
Right.
right or wrong. So that's what I'm saying. Like, what he's doing, a lot of people have an opinion on it, but at the end of the day, who can be his judge?
No one.
No one can be his judge, but that's why you said earlier when you were talking about a reaction. So that's what I'm saying. You have to be able to be accountable and say, okay, this was a mistake. This wasn't, I guess, as effective as I thought in my mind that, oh, okay, I'm doing this to get this outcome and it wasn't what I thought.
So do you think he believes he made a mistake?
And I think that's what's missing is the fact that him actually like proclaiming like, you know what, maybe I shouldn't have gone this route because the relationship that I have with my daughter is not the relationship that I expected to have by doing what I've done for so many years.
Do you
But how
think
do
he
you know he feels like that?
Well, wait,
I don't know anything.
We
I
don't know
don't
that.
know.
Well, we don't.
They've reached out to him. He hasn't commented.
We don't know that, but he has recently, which I just learned from you, that he really stopped those actions when she turned
Turn
18.
18.
No, because maybe in his mind, he feels like, okay, now she's an adult.
She can do
I'm going
whatever
to
she
do
wants.
whatever I think I need to do until she's an adult. And from that point on, you're on your own. But I could honestly look myself in the mirror and say, listen, from the time that she was 13 until 18, I tried. Now, a lot of people may not agree with it, but in my mind, with my fucking daughter, that's what I thought was the right thing to do. Now, maybe 10 years from now, he may look back and be like, damn, I don't agree with what I did. But at that present time, I thought that was the right thing to do.
Yeah, and a lot of people, man, like
And I'm pretty sure a lot of parents, if they could go back, they'll go. Oh.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
would
your
probably do
intentions are
things a little
definitely
different,
clear,
right?
You
Yeah.
know, like I said, there's no playbook to say this is what you need to do to be the perfect parent. What is the perfect parent? You
Yeah,
know?
definitely.
There is
So,
no such thing.
So
Yeah.
listen, to wrap up, I have a question for y'all. So, if you were to give any type of advice to anyone who is having a kid, basically from your perspective, from your pretty much your personal experience, to I guess that kind of threw me off, but it's all good.
My bad, bro. My
If you
bad.
could, so if you can pretty much give any type
Any
of
advice.
any advice to someone who's having a kid, basically, who has a newborn, and I guess from your perspective, basically, to I guess raise their kid from little to pretty much 18, whatever, because you are pretty much you're the one that has the oldest kid here, right? Because what advice you can definitely give, what kind of from your experiences, basically, and this is for you too, honestly. Like
I don't know what advice I would give. All I would say is just be like, the thing is, parenting has like a slippery slope. What I've noticed, you want to be transparent, you want to have this open communication, but at the same time, you want to shelter them and you want to still be the boss. So what I try to do is find like a happy medium with my son. You know, like I have conversations with him. I've even asked, and you know what? I actually ask my students for parental advice. Like I'll tell them, oh, he's 13, he wants an iPhone. Oh, get him an iPhone. I'm like, but I don't want him FaceTime. I don't want him, on social media. They're like, Miss Puka, he's gonna do it anyway. Get it, but have a conversation. These are kids telling me what to
Of
do.
course.
Because
Yeah.
they're kind of giving me like the playbook behind what they did to get over on their parents. Another situation, I actually asked my son, I was like, do you like girls or boys?
Wait, what?
Yeah, I asked him a year ago. I said, do you like girls or boys? He's like, I like girls, mommy. I was like, he was like, why did you ask me that? I said, because I just want to know because of what I'm seeing in the classroom.
I got you.
Like I'm seeing something different from what I see at home. So I'm just curious, like, you like boys or girls? And he was thrown off, but it opened a conversation for him to tell me about girls he liked. Does that make sense? So I'm trying to like have this open dialogue with him, but I still want him to know that I'll knock his ass out. So, because I notice parents that want to be friends, it backfires. When I go to that parent-teacher conference and you tell me that your mom is your best friend and you talk to her any type of way because that's all you know is my mom is my bestie, but she's not a disciplinarian, it becomes an issue. So it's like a touch and go thing.
Got it. Go ahead, Hodge.
What advice I would give to new parents?
Go ahead.
I would probably say do the best that you can do and have an open mind.
Yeah.
Because honestly, and I only have one, but there's no rhyme or reason for anything. You can, there's no playbook.
Yeah.
So you have to take each situation as an isolated situation and just do the best that you can. But then also, too, have an open mind that, although you're the parent, you can also learn from your kid. Because, like I said, I feel like children are a different entity than adults. I feel like their minds are different. I feel like their pineal gland is way more activated than an adult. It's like, we going down a different rabbit hole, but I feel like kids are kids and adults are adults. And just because you're the parent, it doesn't mean you have to rule with an iron fist.
Right.
So I would say do your best and have an open mind.
That's great.
Yeah.
G.
I definitely agree with Cindy and Rob. My number one advice to new parents is be the parent that you wanted when you were a child. And I say that to say with even being open, taking constructive criticism, being mindful, you can never know too much and there's always more to know. And so I feel do your research, be open to getting, advice from a professional standpoint, like go to therapy, and figure out certain things that didn't make sense when you were coming up in the world and certain things that you want to change. You're going to make mistakes and it happens. We're all human beings, but you have to learn from them. And just like you said, you can also learn from your child, right? It's all a growing experience. So that's the advice that I would give to new parents.
If you want to go to therapy, hit up my girl real quick. Shameless plug. You know what I mean?
And you, sir, what advice would you give to new parents?
Just to really just be okay with making mistakes.
That's a good one.
It's life at the end of the day. There's really no concrete. I always say there's no concrete recipe for being successful.
Right.
It's pretty much the same thing with anything. Especially, there's no concrete recipe for being a parent at all. There's trials and tribulations. And honestly, like for people who are, even though I don't really necessarily agree with T.I., but at the same time too, like he who is without sin, like cast the fucking first stone. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like if you really feel like you are basically like that perfect person, then, that of a perfect parent, then, then say something. But obviously nobody's perfect, so you can't. There is, I just think that everybody just really just needs to really just respect everybody's process and experiences when it comes to their own child, and if you feel like you made a mistake, okay, cool. But at the end of the day, if you learn from it,
it'll blow off in a week. It'll be over.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I hope
Which is why
so.
he probably won't even respond because,
Yeah.
that's just the world we live in.
And I think one of the questions I definitely have for you guys, whatever, not to answer now, but I guess for my viewership is that can parents be a disciplinarian and a friend at the same time?
Yes.
You think so? I mean, I'm not asking to answer it right now because like we're way over time, but
Yes.
I would say not 50-50.
Okay.
Yes, but not 50-50.
What
Okay.
is
I like
even?
that.
Is there's no
Okay.
even?
Yeah.
You know what I
But it's
mean? But it's
possible.
possible.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, we'll leave it up to like a little bit of cliffhanger. All right, guys. I appreciate you guys for
Thank
sticking
y'all.
with
Thank
us and great conversations as always. It's the lab.